Hey everybody, welcome to our third brokers webinar here for the month of April. We're excited that you could join us today for this exciting information. We've got our very own Anne Powell, who's one of our GRI faculty members, who's going to be leading today's webinar all about understanding today's buyer. I think you're going to get some great information from Annie that you can use. Just as a bit of a tease for all of you, Annie's actually using information that is coming from our recharge event last week, a bit of a recap, and also information from our GRI Working with Buyers class, which I'll tell you about both of those events and how you and your agents can be involved in what's going on there. So I'm going to turn the program over now to Anne Powell and take it away, Anne.
Good morning, everybody. So glad to have you with us. And I was really excited when Josh and I decided on the topic for today, because I think it's one of the biggest challenges that we face in today's world is understanding today's buyer. So my contact information is on the screen there. I am the Director of Career Development for Roberts Brothers, and my email address is there as well as my telephone number. So if any of you have any questions or thoughts you want to share after the webinar is over, please, or after you view this webinar, please give me a call or send me an email. I'd be more than glad to answer you. As we look at today's buyer, we're going to approach them from a couple points of view. One, of course, would be the internet, because that's very important. The next one would be first-time buyers versus repeat buyers. What's the difference? And then also, how about the generations? How do people from different generations, what are their buying trends? How do they work? The other consideration in understanding today's buyer would be their cultural background. And due to time, we won't be covering this today, but I would recommend to you, if you've never taken the At Home with Diversity course, either online or live, I really suggest you do that if you are in a population that's very diverse in its culture, because it can be so valuable. So let's go ahead and jump right in. My first question for you is to, in a few words right now, I'd like you to take a moment and just think or jot down, who is today's buyer? Describe them. What things come to mind for you regarding today's buyer? Okay. Take just a moment to do that. All right. Now, I want you to think of something else. I want you to think about what you're like as a buyer. What are you like as a buyer? Do you buy quickly? Are you a slow buyer? And how about, when do you want a salesperson's help? Do you want them to, be there right away? How do you want them to communicate to you when you're buying something? And I know it varies from one thing to another that you're buying, but in general, do you like them to communicate with you through text message, emails, telephone calls, in person? What do you like? And then, do you want them from the very beginning of your process, or maybe a little bit later on? Is that something that you'd like to put together a little bit past that? Okay. I asked several agents and did a survey before I started this class about what they thought. And here's some of the responses I got. Most of the buyers that I've been working with have tons of information from the internet, but have no idea what it means or how to use it. They come to me looking for validation and interpretation of that information. So as we look at that, that's going to be something really important for us to consider. They all have information overload, and my value is in helping them weed through it and provide expectations of the position of today's seller to make sure they know what's happening with today's seller. Also, today's buyers are educated and they're tech savvy. Because of Zillow and other websites, they are truly educated. They also expect you, the realtor, to have access to all the new technology that's on the market to use to find a home. Today's buyers are knowledgeable about the homes they want to see. They have studied them on the internet, but still need us to show them the actual home. One agent, as I tell buyers, we are tour guides until they find the right property then our job really begins. Getting the buyer to the closing table is our biggest job. And again, you may or may not agree with some of these, but these are some thoughts to consider. Buyers tend to buy up to their limit, and we need to remind them about closing cost and prepaids. One agent said they are indecisive, lots of looking, but always something comes up to prevent them from moving forward. Today's buyers are savvy. They have access to everything a realtor has and know what it is, what's on the market, and how much it's worth before they even get to realtors. They are well informed and expect you to be as well. And of course, we don't know if the information they're getting is good information or bad, so it may not be. But I'd like you to consider this. Is this today's buyer, do you think? Probably not. In fact, is this more like today's buyer? Now, this slide is about buyers buying anything, not just buyers buying homes. But take a look. 89% get information online before buying. 60% compare information on mobile. Okay. 73 use online coupons. 72, in other words, they want a bargain. 72% look for advice from other consumers, so they are going to other folks. 42% of all retail sales are online web influence. Do you think that's true of us too? And then multi-channel consumers spend, in other words, those that go on to all kinds of different things, 82% more than those that just shop in a store. So some of those things hit home with us. So has all this technology helped? Well, one of the things that I learned at the Recharge class was that there was actually a Center for Internet and Technology Addiction. And man, we need that. But also, has technology really helped us? Well, it may have helped in the buying to make it easier, but do you think it's made your job a little harder? And why would that be? Could it be because of what we heard from those agents before, and maybe what you thought, the information overload that's in place? So these bubbles represent buyers. Now, if you were trying to go out and capture these buyers or these bubbles and you chase them, you could possibly have them what? Because of your movement, you could pop them or they could float away in the wind. But do you have a better chance of at least catching the bubble or catching what's left of the bubble if you are there as the bubble floats and then it lands in your hand softly? And we know we need to be there when it lands in our hand softly. So how has technology changed it for us? Well, this is an example of a buying process. Do you think it's right? What's the first step here? The first step, they say, is to select an agent and then meet with your agent and get your financing, and then with your agent select and view properties. Well, could we all agree that there's a step missing, and that's that they're going to be shopping before they ever get to us. They're going to be online. In fact, let's take a look. The first step of online buyers, and this comes from your national NAR profile of home buyers and home sellers from 2014. And it tells us that 43% of the people said they looked online for property first. 15% of them, the first thing they did was contact an agent. 12% were back online. They're looking for information about buying. 7 talked to friends and relatives. 6 contacted a lender, and 6 drove by the home. So maybe it'd be important for us to take a look at today's internet buyer first. And what do you know? So let's test what you already know about this. And as Josh mentioned, we use some of this information in our GRI class on working with buyers, and as well as other resources. So let's take a quick look. What percentage of all buyers do you think use the internet? And what percent found their agents on an internet? How about age? Does that have something to do with it, and income? What's the average age and income of the internet user? And how about the average age and internet of the non-internet user? Internet users search how many times longer than non-internet users? And they do, they search longer, okay? What percentage of buyers use an agent in today's world? Is it high or low? And internet users, are they more or less likely to use that agent? Well, let's see what our answers are. 92% of them use the internet, so we better be there. 26% found the agent on the internet. So ask yourself, how good is your presence? They are 42 years of age average, and they make over $86,000 a year. The non-internet user is older, that probably doesn't surprise you, and their income is a little bit less, 66,000 plus. Internet user is 2.5 times longer in searching than one that's not on the internet. And 90% of all of them use buyers, and the internet user is absolutely more likely to use an agent. It's really amazing to us to think about that, because they are very independent too. What else do we want to look at? Well, let's look at the search process. How many weeks do you think they search before contacting you? And we've heard these statistics different places, but let's see what you think. Look at your own experience. Based on your own experience, how long are your buyers taking before they contact you? And is there a difference in the entire search process between a first-time buyer and a repeat buyer? And then finally, how many of the buyers actually find their home on the internet, and how many of them does the agent find the home? Well, we find that they're online at least 2 weeks before contacting you, and this does vary between the first-time buyer and the repeat buyer. The first-time buyer total search process is about 12 weeks, whereas repeat is 9 weeks. And we find that the first-time buyer is online possibly as long as 3 to 4 weeks before coming to you. 46% find the home they purchased on the internet, and 33% the agent found the home. Please note that that is down 15% since 2001. So we've seen a big shift in these years to be able to do it. And do you think that's going to continue to grow, where they're going to find their homes on the internet themselves? 83% of the internet buyers rated one thing as the most useful thing that they found on the internet. What do you think that was? 79% of them said the detailed information was most useful, and 40% said that the virtual tours, interactive maps were. Many of them use iPhones, iPads, and other devices. And in fact, what percentage found the home they purchased on a mobile app? We know the most valuable thing to them will be photographs. The next thing we already said was detailed information and visual tours. But we also found that 27% found the home they purchased on a mobile app. Do you think that'll go up? I do. I think that's going to increase dramatically as we go through. So where does this take us? What do we need to do to connect to today's buyers as soon as we can? Because we know they're out there without us, and we want to make that connection. Well, the first thing you need to do is check your website, and we'll go into more detail on each of these. And the next thing is to check yourself on other websites. Take quality pictures on your listings and make sure you have them in a good order. And we'll discuss this further, and also about how to write good comments and remarks. That's critical. So let's first take a look at your website. And again, my sincere thanks to Recharge, as well as other resources that I had, because they really either solidified what I thought was right, or they gave me some great new information. You want to make sure that your picture and contact information is in the upper right-hand corner or left-hand corner. A lot of people prefer the right-hand corner. Other experts say the left, but bottom line is you want it to be up there. You also want to make sure that the telephone number and a phone link, if possible, can be up there, as well as same thing for your email. You want to have the email spelled out, but you also want to have it be a link. At the bottom of each page, repeat this contact information so that they don't have to scroll up, okay? Keep it simple is really important. You don't want too many menus or too many widgets or too many anything on your page at the top or anywhere else. The top two things we know that the consumer wants, of course, is a home search, and make it simple. If they have to do a lot of clicking through, you will start losing people. The more they have to click, you lose somewhere between 30 and 60% of each viewer on a click. The next thing they really want to know is about the market. What's happening in the marketplace? We know social media is critically important, and it is. You want to make sure that you are using it. But you also don't want to make it a dominant link on your websites, because if they leave there and go, then are they going to get distracted with what's at that social media? And the answer is most likely they will. Pictures, really important. We used to start with scrolling pictures and everybody decided, no, they just like to have something. And real pictures versus some stock pictures are much better. And videos are absolutely one of the best things you can do. And you don't want to make these too long though. Keep them short. Your videos, try to keep your videos so that they are not more than a minute long when possible, so that you can use them as email in the downloading. Occasionally you'll have to go to 2 to 3 minutes, but try not to ever go over 3 minutes. But the majority, keep them down to about a minute. Your videos can be about your properties that you have listed. They can be about you, but they can also be about what's happening in your area, community events, and things like that. People really like those. We find, by the way, that emails that have videos in them are 3 times more likely to be opened and viewed. You also want to use the call to action. We know we've done that in marketing for years. So what do we want to do? We want to have some type of button that will allow them to do the top thing, which is search property. But how about a button for contacting you? Make it simple on them, okay? The third button could be your choice, and don't go over 2 or 3. You might want to put something in there that would have to do with financing, perhaps. That might be helpful to them. Or again, it could be something that would have to do with the area. How about other websites? Number 1, make sure you have a good picture. I updated my picture on Facebook about a week ago, and I have had so much activity on Facebook, it's amazing. So just that one little thing, make sure, and it was a much better picture, make sure you do that, okay? Your profile on other websites, no matter whether you're using Zillow, Trulia, one of the social medias like Facebook or Twitter, all of your profiles have to be good. And then the number 1 thing that the consumer is using today is ratings and reviews. That with pictures are the most important things to them. Just like when you go shopping and you use Yelp to find a good restaurant or to find a good hotel, we need to be ready for that. Let's talk about those pictures. First of all, use a really good camera or pay somebody. If you're using a tablet or iPhone, always turn it horizontally so that you don't have the white space on the side. And also turning those devices in many cases turns it into a high definition rather than a regular picture. Of course, some of the new devices are so great that you might say they take better pictures than my camera. Bottom line is make sure you're doing it. What order do you put your pictures in? Well, most MLSs require us to have the front of the house first, so that's critical. So when you take the front of the house, I want you to be thinking about the angle. You want to angle it just a little bit to give it a little bit of depth so that it looks three-dimensional, not flat. So angle it just a little bit. Watch out for trees. Don't put them in the middle of windows and things like that. Try to move your angles as much as you can. We can't always do it, but do as much as you can. And then crop things that you don't need, like sidewalks or the neighbor's driveway. Make sure you stage your rooms. Take everything off the refrigerator. Take a lot of things off of counters. Don't have towels hanging off of things in the kitchen. Make sure that you have the shower curtain closed and the lid down in bathrooms so that everything looks the best it possibly can. When you go to write the words, remember 79% said that was very important to them. You want to make sure that you do more than tell the facts. You need to paint the picture. Sell the sizzle, not the steak, I was told years ago, and I think that's really true. So I don't need to say that I have a shaded patio. I need to talk about how they can experience that patio. Talk about them relaxing on it, enjoying themselves at the end of the day, that they deserve to have that opportunity. Paint a picture. Let's shift gears now away from the internet and let's talk about generations. Do generations make a difference? Well, obviously, we think they really can. But also remember that each person is different. You may find that somebody in one generation really, they just don't fit that. But let's take a look at the generations, and let's also take a look at who's buying and where they currently living right now so that we understand a little more about buyers. Because if we understand how to approach them in the beginning or what we think might be a good way to approach them, then we're ahead of the game. Here are the statistics that we have on the buying demographics. Take a look at the median age. In the last 5 years, it's gone from 39 to 42. And that has a lot to do with our youngest buyers, the millennial generation. Income has gone up some. How about the married versus non-married and so forth? Well, it jumped from 2010 to 11, but it's been pretty steady since then. And so has whether or not they have children. But take a look. The number that own a second home has gone up dramatically. Do you think that might be the baby boomers? Most likely it is. So let's see. As we're looking at this, who's buying? Well, there's your millennials. They're the ones that are 32 years or younger as of 2012. Now we're in 2015, so these people are actually up to 35 years of age. Okay. They make up a pretty good percentage, but the largest one is going to be your Gen Xers if you take them as a population. But take a look at your boomers. If you add the young and older boomers together, it's 32%. And that means that they're the largest population buying. And then we have our silent NGI, which are smaller populations, but still important. So when we're thinking about marketing to them, and this has to do with your social media, your general marketing, your website, your blogs, and every other website that you're on, you want to remember just a few things. And one of them is that the older baby boomers on down, they want to know your credentials. They care about, how long you've been in real estate. They care about, do you have any designations? They care about, your schooling, all of those types of things. The other end of our generation spectrum, the millennials, they don't care about that at all because, they got a trophy for just showing up. So credentials don't mean as much to them. They want to know about you, the person. Who are you? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? Do you have pets? How about your family? And then the Gen Xers and the younger boomers, they're in the middle. And believe it or not, they want all of it. They want to know some of your credentials, but they also want to know you. The biggest thing with those two groups will be that they need to be able to trust you. And the only way they can do that is to know what you're talking about, as well as who are you? Who are you to them? Let's take a closer look at first-time buyers now, not just generations, but first-time buyers. Well, we do know that the first-time buyer is usually younger, usually about 31, so they're more likely to be in that millennial group. They normally buy detached homes. The median price, now this is nationwide, so I don't know that that would be as true for our particular state or your area, but then the size, and that probably seems about right. Does that sound right to you? Okay. Their reason for buying, number one reason for buying is the desire to own a home. 53% of them. Very important. As we look at that, the first-time buyers versus the repeat buyers, the number of first-time buyers that we have is at a 14-year low. It used to be almost half of them. And, we look at that, and they still represent a third of the market. So why is it so low? Well, that's that millennial group. Do you think a lot of them are still living at home, and some of them don't have the money or the jobs needed yet? Do they also prefer perhaps to rent rather than buy? They may not be ready to settle down. This generation is a little slower in getting settled than previous generations. And then we know one of the things we're concerned about are the student loans, to be able to handle those student loans. And that's going to continue to be a big problem for quite some time. How about your repeat buyers? Your repeat buyers, average age is 53. Well, that's kind of interesting because the average age of the realtor is about 54 to 57. So I guess a lot of us can identify with them, but we still need to understand they do buy detached homes the most, and their median square footage, that's probably about right, I would say. Do you agree? Now, why do they buy homes? Well, they already have the American dream. So theirs is going to be a whole variety of things that are going to come to play there. Let's take a look closer at that, because this is one of the more important things for you to consider when you're thinking about being able to market yourself and understand where they're coming from. First-time buyers, they want the American dream. They want a desire to buy their own home. They also feel that they're affordable right now. They also are ready to establish their home and build some financial security. Repeat buyers, really, 24% of them gave no particular reason for buying. But what we saw the strongest was that it had to do with job relocation, or some type of life change that they had. Something going on. Maybe the family's getting bigger, maybe it's getting smaller, something's changing in their life. They also have a pretty strong desire to have a better area and a larger home. So that can help us when we start meeting with someone and they already own a home, that, what kind of home are they going to want? Well, we certainly want them to tell us, but traditionally, if they're living in 15 to 1,800 square feet, they're probably going to want to move up to 2,000 to 24. Okay. How about their living arrangements? Where are they now? And this one is, I call this the good news, the bad news slide, because we know that we have way more people renting now than we ever did before. We see that for a lot of reasons. Some of it has to do with the number of people that lost their homes through short sales and foreclosures. We also see that through the millennial generation. So that is not favorable to this moment. But what is favorable to us is the pent-up demand that we have. If we take a look at those millennials who today are now 35 and younger, we see that 65% of them are renting and 22% are living with a friend or relative. That means 87% of them in the future, that a good portion of those people will probably be looking to buy homes. So we want to make sure we keep marketing to them. But don't forget about marketing those that are the strongest positions right now, and that's going to be your Gen Xers and your baby boomers, both your young baby boomers and your older baby boomers. So you want to be appealing to them also. So how can we help the home buyer? What are some of the things that we can actually do? Let's kind of pull all this together and see. Well, the next thing we need to know is, what's the most difficult thing for them? What do you think it is? Take a guess before I bring up the next slide. What do you think that home buyers, whether repeat or first time, what do you think they tell us is the hardest, most difficult step in the home buying process? Ready? Finding the right property. Did you guess it? I think this is really interesting because even though in the survey, many of them said that they found the property themselves, that they went online for weeks before they got with us, the number one thing that they still want from us is helping them find right property. Okay. What does this mean to you? Well, one of the things that you may want to make sure you have and that you market that you have is a system to help them find just the right property for them. It could talk, and in your system, you could put in how you help with them with property selection. Also, what things do you do as you're showing property to make it easier on them to be able to help eliminate or to keep in the possible stack things that they see. One of the things that can help there a whole lot is having the buyers rank property as you show it to them, and actually have a sheet for them to have all the properties you're going to show that day and information about them, as well as the customer copy of the MLS. But then at the end of that sheet, have a column that will ask about ranking so that you can help them after you see two houses. Okay, well, which one did you like better? And yes, sometimes they're going to say both of them. Okay, but keep guiding them through the ranking process so that we can see what's there. Okay. What are the other things they care about? The paperwork. Look at this. No difficult steps. Wow. 16% don't think there's anything hard. They don't have a real estate license, do they? Okay. But we have to look at the overall here. We also have 16% that want to understand the process. What are the steps in buying home? And take a look again at your younger generation. They really need that. Okay. Getting a mortgage that's across the boards. People really do have concerns about that. And then saving for down payment, appraisal, and other. What this slide tells us is that we need to look at this and we need to say, okay, what resources can I provide for them so that I can show them my value? What resources can I provide them to help them with paperwork, to help them with the steps of buying, to help them in finding the right property, and of course the financing. So what do I do to really understand today's buyer? Well, the first thing is going back to take a look at the overall. What is the overall view? What about first-time buyers versus repeat? As we saw there, their needs are definitely different. Their dreams are definitely different. We need to be able to appeal to both of those. Well, if I'm going to do that, and how about the generations? I've got all these different things with generations. The younger generation wants to know me, the person. The older generation wants to know my credentials. Well, here's a suggestion. Your website probably needs on your homepage to have a page that will talk a little bit about both of these things. But again, you don't want to have too much verbiage or put it in a form that they'll read, like bullet points or things like that, or even how about a video, so that you could have your credentials there perhaps written and then have a video that'll talk about you, the person. What do you like to do? What's important to you? Do you think it'd be a good idea also to talk about working with the different generations, so that you can talk about the fact that you work with people, whether they're at the beginning part of their buying or they're repeating their buying, okay? And once again, please go back and get your At Home with Diversity. Learn about different cultures and ways to approach them. That can be really important. But as we look at this overall, we also need to make sure that we take a look at specific. One of the best things you can do is ask them, what do they want in an agent? And stop and think. And a good way to do this is to go back to the people you've worked with in the past. You probably want to ask them for some testimonials too. And by the way, video testimonials are very popular today. But ask them about what did they look for in an agent, particularly those people that you maybe didn't know before that were strangers to you when you started, so that we have it. The next thing you need to know is, how do they shop? And we've kind of looked at that. Where will they look first? Well, we know they're looking online, so we need to be there. We need to be ready for them. We need to be there in our social medias, and we need to be on more than just our website. Where they start looking is where we have to start connecting with them. Make sure you have a good picture of yourself and make sure it reflects who you look like today. That's going to be important. Many times people put a picture up and they don't want to get a picture. If they're getting, beyond where they want to have that picture look, they say, oh, this makes me look a lot better. Well, you still have to look like you, okay? Know when they will want to have you with them face to face. And we know that's probably after a little while. So we need to concentrate on marketing ourselves to them before that. We need to remember the reasons they buy. The American dream, to have a better location, for job and life changes that can go on. And then also for the affordability, to talk about how affordable it is. Let me ask you this. How many of you have some type of a link either on your phone or on your website? Are you talking about it on your Facebook business page or other social medias that talks about renting versus buy analysis? There's a very good one on realtor.org that is great, and it allows you to put in things for your particular area and helps them to be able to see it. Knowing how to plan this. Now, remember those millennials, that pent up buying that we've got. If we talk to them now and we start getting them ready and we let them know about us being there for them, it can help, okay? We need to understand their challenges and again, talk about those. Finding a home, paperwork, understanding the process, and the financing that goes into place for them too. Finally, wow, how do we communicate with them? What is it the best way? And one of the things that we really have a problem with is knowing how to communicate and then getting them to come back and communicate with us, right? How many of you have experienced that you get their email address and you send them tons of email and you just can't get them to respond to you? Well, one of the things you need to do is make sure what you put in the email is really going to prompt them to call you back. Add something to that would be a question that would say, I'm sending you some information, but I have some questions as well as some additional information to share. Please call me. Don't just say, how does this look to you? Do you like any of these? You need to put out there that you need to ask them some more questions so that that can prompt them to call you. I also asked some buyers how they liked us to communicate with them and what they wanted from agents. This was in a pre-licensed class that I taught the other day. And the response was amazing. They really all agreed with each other. The number one thing they wanted was communication from their agent in ways that they can help contact the agent. In other words, if they prefer text messaging, then they want you to do that. But if they say, hey, I want a phone call, they want a phone call. By the way, the majority of them said text messaging and emailing was okay, but they really, really preferred that we would pick up the phone and call them. The next thing they want out of us is to make sure we're on time for our appointments, whatever they are, whether it's a call that we're going to make to them or in person. And then they also said they wanted us to be upfront about the responsibilities we have to them and the things they need to be doing with us so that we can share with both ways. I thought that third point was really valuable because that's something you could also talk about in your marketing to be able to know, as well as in your face-to-face conversations with them. Remember our bubbles? We know we need to be there when they want us to be there. But how do we know when that is? Well, the answer is you may not know. So what we need to do is to be there in our non-face connections. And in those non-face connections, we need to show them how we are a resource for them. Very important. In other words, go back to the things that they wanted. We know that they're educated. Well, they want us to be educated. We know that they want help in finding a home and guiding them through the process. So we need to talk about that. We know that they want us to be tech savvy and be present online so that we can help them out. And they want to make sure too, a lot of them want to make sure that they can contact. Don't forget about the person. That person is critically important. Let them know who you are. Make sure that they can identify with you. Keep learning. This is a screenshot from Zillow. Whether you like Zillow or you don't, the bottom line is the consumer does. And look what they have. What you need to know about today's home buyer. If you're a seller, it's helpful to understand the mindset of today's buyer, to understand what they've been through and what they're willing to do or not do to get to the home they want. Do you think it would be a good idea to go and read this information so that you can see what the consumer is seeing? How about some other resources? Keep learning. Check out realtor.org. It has the information regarding this. You can download the profile for a little less than $20, but there's even a short version PowerPoint and a synopsis that is free that you can download. Just go in and put in profile of home buyers and home sellers 2015. Again, profile of home buyers and sellers 2014. What about a main strategy? Well, how about this? Maybe we should stop just emailing over and over and over again and try to see what we can't do to do some emailing and put something in the emailing so that we can try to get them face-to-face or at least on the phone. Okay? But one of the big strategies, would you agree, and we hear it time and time again, is to stop selling. I train new agents, and I've done it for many years, as well as experienced agents. And one of the things that I constantly hit on is stop acting like a real estate agent and start acting like a person. There is a great book called The Go-Giver. It is by John David Mann and Bob Berg. Again, that is The Go-Giver. And in The Go-Giver, there is a salesperson who is trying to increase his sales, and he's trying to find out the secret, and he finds a mentor who helps him that teaches him the 5 principles of being a go-giver. And the first principle of being a go-giver is to not try to make the sale, but to try to help make that person's life better. In the book, they actually have a real estate agent who was about to quit the business. She knew every sales technique and she knew how to do all those things. And she was not getting anywhere. So right before she quit, she had one last showing. And since that showing, she knew she was going to quit the business after it. She didn't worry about any of those techniques. All she did was to be a person. Finally, sometimes we just have to remind ourselves to keep going. keep going. This is all sales, not just real estate, but I do think it really follows with us too. Did you know that 48% of all salespeople never follow up with a prospect? 25% will make a second contact and stop, 12% a third contact and stop, and that's all. And only 10% go past the third contact. But take a look at those numbers. 2% of sales are made at the first contact, 3% on the second, 5% on the third, 10% on the fourth, but 80% the fifth or the 12th. So sometimes remember to keep going. I hope that this has helped you today to have at least a little bit of insight and that you've taken some notes. But once again, here is my contact information. I am delighted to help any of you in any way that I can with my email or my telephone call or with anything, whatever. I have had the pleasure of teaching at many of your boards and for our state and local associations. So I'm glad to help in anything that I can do. Please let me know. Don't forget, Josh is going to give you a reminder about some things coming up. And we hope that you'll take advantage of the great things that AAR is offering. So I appreciate your being in. And Josh, I'm going to hand it back to you now.
Thank you, Annie, for that great webinar and all the wealth of information. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did, and it'll help you in training your agents later on. With that, a couple of announcements and promotions for things that are coming up over the next few weeks. Of course, Annie mentioned that we have the Graduate Realtor Institute, a specific course in that, which she hit on today, and Annie's one of the instructors for, is our Working with Buyers course. All the information for your agents is available there at alabamarealtors.com/GRI. Of course, I'm available to answer any questions, Josh at alabamarealtors.com, or you can call our office for that info. A couple of other things we wanted to tell you about is next week we're launching a new course. If you missed last month's Brokers webinar, Jim Lawrence talked about fair housing in today's market. We're actually launching a new 3-hour CE course called The American Dream for All, Fair Housing in Today's Market, next week, right before Realtor Day, on Tuesday at 1:30 p.m., 3 hours, 3-hour CE course, $10. There at the Montgomery Area Association of Realtors. Registration is open under the Education tab on alabamarealtors.com. Also, we're hosting that same course up in Huntsville, so if you're in North Alabama, we're hosting that on Monday, April 27th, 1:30 to 4:30 at the Huntsville Area Association of Realtors. As you know, April is Fair Housing Month, so great option to take care of some great fair housing information there as well. I mentioned a minute ago, Realtor Day is next week, April 22nd. This is the day to have your voice heard at the State House. So please come down and support lots of great legislation that's moving through the State House to support realtor issues, private property rights, and home ownership. Registration's open at alabamarealtors.com for that program. Paperless Agent is a new program this year. It's a paperless training tool. If your office is truly looking to boost productivity, become paperless, half the buyer tours, and win more listings, visit alabamarealtors.com/paperless for free training as well as a discount on their coaching program. Our summer conference is June 14th through the 17th in Pensacola, Florida at the Pensacola Hilton. Two great events there that I want to mention. If you attended the Recharge Lab, and Annie mentioned several things from Recharge last week, there's a lab there that kind of will help you unpack all of the information that you learned at Recharge. If you missed the Recharge event, this is a great option to get really the meat of the matter. Two of the speakers there from the Recharge event will lead you through a workbook through what's called the Digital Framework. And that is $99 on June 15th, 9 to 4, there at the Pensacola Hilton. We're also happy to announce that we're bringing Terry Watson, the National Edutainer, back to Alabama for the summer conference. On June 16th, he'll be teaching Effective Negotiating for Real Estate Professionals from 9 to 4. This course is 6 hours of GRI elective and 6 hours of the WCR PMN certification credit as well. This course is co-sponsored by the Women's Council of Realtors, and they'll actually be hosting their summer meeting there immediately following this class. So thank you to WCR. All of that information is available at alabamarealtors.com/summer. Also this summer, July 22nd through the 24th, your team can come and become ninjas, ninja selling, with Terry Johnson as the instructor. $99 per day, an unprecedented low price, brought to you by a joint partnership from CRS Alabama and the Alabama Association of Realtors. More information about ninja selling at ninjaselling.com, and also register for this course and find out more information specifically at alabamarealtors.com/ninja. All of what I said today is available at our new hub for education, your source for realtor education, alabamarealtors.com/edu. Again, thank you, Annie, for being here and with us today. We learned lots from you, and can't wait to take that information and apply it to our companies. Thank you, brokers, for being a part of this. If you have broker friends and agents who would benefit from this, the YouTube video will be available on alabamarealtors.com/brokers as early as tomorrow. So look for that information. We'll also send you an email with the link. Thanks, and go out and sell some houses. Have a great day.